There it is, Jeff. LIVE in all caps.
Boom.
We're live.
Boom.
We are live, folks. Guys, happy Monday morning, wherever you are. Hope you had a great weekend of tennis and or the gym, which is kind of a deal, Jeff. I mean, that gym is always there. It's always available.
Yeah. Always available.
It's
Never says no.
no. I think that there's this company called 24 Hour. Yeah, that's right. Come on in. So, look, before we get into today's, there he is. Speak of the devil, there he is, Mark Jordan,
Mr. Jordan.
Yeah. Major Dan in another lifetime, or maybe this lifetime. Who knows?
Yeah, it's all the same. It's all interactive, right?
That's right. Yeah. All right, let's get. I was going to ask you about how your weekend was up there in Moraga, Northern California, the USPTA conference.
Beautiful weekend.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, beautiful. The weather was perfect to be standing around.
Yeah,
standing and sitting. It wasn't too hot. Sometimes those can be a bear if we're outside.
That's true.
Hot weekend. It can be holy moly. It can be tough. But annual spring conference.
Yeah.
2 days of information and seminars and all that. Overall, really great. The remodel at the Moraga Country Club is fabulous. Beautiful.
Well, actually, my first big time job in the industry was the Moraga Country Club. And that was the late 70s. And tennis was really cooking then. And, I applied and somehow they went, I think you're our guy. I went, okie doke, here we go. I mean, I didn't know Jack Diddley, if that's the right word, or whatever it is, Jack Squat or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was the GM, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Excuse me. Well, he was a golf guy. The GM was a golf guy.
Yeah.
But ended up in front of the committee and they just, I don't know, maybe no one else applied. Who knows? I was taking over for Stanley Passerell.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
that's funny because when I took the job at Silverado, Stanley was leaving Silverado.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. Well, I've actually left a couple of jobs in the Bay Area. And Stevie Jackson, who's over at the Cow Club. So when I left Tiburon, Steve Jackson came over and took over. And then I went over to the Cow Club. And then when I left the Cow Club, Steve Jackson came over, took over. So funny thing was I hadn't seen Steve for quite a while. So he'd been at the Cow Club for, I don't know, 12, 15 years. And I finally saw him. And he says, we just joked about that, how he comes in after I do. He says, look, could you go get a job in Hawaii for a while?
Right.
I said, you mean you want to go to Hawaii? He says, yeah, that'd
be great.
I go, okay. So anyway, but no, the Moraga Country Club was, my first real big job. Had to manage some pros and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't know anything about teaching tennis, Jeff. I thought it was all, turn, racket back, step forward and hit the ball.
Watch the ball, racket back, follow through. Watch the ball, racket back, follow through.
Yeah.
Watch the ball, racket back, follow through.
And then I hired my first assistant pro. I hired was a guy we know very well, Doug King. He'd just come off the tour. He played number one at Cal for, I don't know, he was there for 4 years. I don't know how many years he played one, but he went out and played the tour for a couple of years and came back, decided, he wanted to do something different. So I hired him. And Moraga Country Club has courts back then anyway. I mean, maybe the courts are numbered differently now because of the remodel, but we had 11 and 12, which were, as you were looking at that court this weekend, it's to the right. It's those two courts to the right, kind of by the road over there. Anyway.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, God dang it, within about 2 weeks, his group of players were a hell of a lot better than mine. And I've been working with mine for about a year and a half. And I just finally said, Kanger, what's going on? And he was talking about the game in these different words and phrases. And
right.
I said, what's, come on.
What's up?
Give it to me. I said, well, he says, as you know, I'm not here on Wednesday mornings, right? He said, that's right. I said, well, I go to Napa and I'm in with a group with Steve Stefanki and John Hubble, the three of us, with Tom Stowe for 3 hours. And this is all Stowe stuff. I went, oh, Well, all right. So I called up Mr. Stowe and just begged. I just begged. And I knew him from when he was a manager and head pro at the Berkeley Tennis Club when I was a kid.
Right.
And I was young enough. I was still 31 or 32. And he just said, well, why do you want to come up here? I said, oh, well, I really, if you want to come up here to learn how to teach, I'd have to charge you a whole lot more. I said, no. I want to learn how to play. He said, okay. Anyway, so that was when, things changed for me in terms of how to teach, how to coach, but mostly how to play.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but the Moraga Country Club, great memories for me. Guys, let's get into today's episode.
Morning, Rich. See you Thursday.
Rich, good to see you. And I've got Jeff, we're going to look at, which I think is one of the really solid one-handed topspin backhand drives. A good friend of ours, Doug Dittmer, from Northern California. And I got three things I think that are teachable. And I think that if players work on just these three things, that there's a really good chance that you can learn how to drive a topper. And by the way, he in this clip he's playing with a Gamma Big Bubba.
Yeah.
137 square inches. And so it's doable. You don't have to have a tiny little headed racket to be able to do all the right stuff. Number one, the prep. You got to get sideways. You absolutely have to get sideways on this thing. So what I think is a tangible reference is to point your front shoulder right at the ball. I used to think about, hey, could my opponent see my back? If you get turned that much, wow, that's good. That's good. But if nothing else, just point that front shoulder at the ball. And then you got to go full Eastern backhand grip. And this is kind of the one of the three steps for me that I've always said, if I spent a week, 2 weeks and doing nothing more, I'd get it. I'm more of a hybrid Eastern backhand continental.
Right. I would say I'm the same.
Yeah. But he goes full blown Eastern backhand grip on this thing, which for a lot of us just feels too extreme.
Yeah.
But I think, we were talking about Doug King, literally one of the great backhands of all time. And he just put that knuckle just on top of the bevel, as does, obviously we don't have a clear shot of it here. If you have any questions about what a full Eastern backhand grip is, just shoot me an email, Brent@WebTennis.com.
Right. Well, Kinger actually slid the thumb up a little bit too.
Well, he did the Tom Stowe thing, right? He put the thumb along the back of the grip. Right. And any young buck right now teaching pro would go, "What's that?" And it's just the way it was done back in the day, and it makes contact unbelievably solid.
Yeah.
So let's go through these three things, Jeff, and then I'm going to have you come back and kind of talk about each one. And then,
okay, first, how great does that grass look? God.
Yeah, I know.
Where do I want to be today?
Okay, well, you can join us at 9 in about 15 minutes. I'll be out there on crash court 9 at 9. Number two, you got to stay sideways through contact. I think too often what happens is you might have one nailed right where you got that front shoulder pointing at the ball and you've got a full Eastern backhand grip. But if you open up that front shoulder too soon, you can't drive forward through the ball. I mean, your swing path wants to go slightly left to right if you're a right-handed player. So you got to make sure that you stay sideways through contact. And then the last thing is, and I know you'll love this, it's just a forward swing out to a full straight arm finish. And look, you don't need to windshield wiper this thing to get topspin. You've already dipped the racket head a little bit below contact. or prior to contact. And then when you go forward, it doesn't literally go forward. It goes
Right.
slightly up. And
your shoulder's the hinge point.
yes,
Done.
exactly. And so that's the finish. And so let's just take a look at a couple of these. Point the shoulder sideways and then finish with that arm straight in front. Do you have to do the Dimitrov, flick the racket head around? You don't. So let's go back and take a look at these, and then I'll go through this practice thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back and look at one. Your thoughts, Jeffrey?
Obviously, you've already mentioned it. Great prep turn. I think one of the most important things in all of these shots that Doug hit is that he hit all of them stable on both feet.
I knew you were going to say that. I absolutely knew it.
He does not get lost in trying to step into it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so stepping into the ball, I think, is one of the most misunderstood technical aspects of hitting a tennis ball, because it is assumed when you step, you should be transferring your weight at the same time. So most people get that wrong, and they get lost in body conformation, and all kinds of things go off. But if you can learn to be stable on both feet at contact, you'll find that you start making cleaner, more consistent contact more often. So I love that about these four. Even though he got pushed back a little bit, he moved forward a little bit, all of them, and he was just on top of both feet at contact. Nice coil and uncoil, down and up, not left to right. So yeah, I love where his head's at right now. He's watching the ball, obviously. He's there, he's steady.
But you're right about a stable platform to swing away from. Right? There's no artificial sort of having to use the upper body to kind of work the racket forward or whatever. It's a real stable platform, which I know you love.
I would say this too, like right now, his left leg is going to swing out and he's going to catch his momentum from moving right to left. The most important thing here, though, is that left foot is still attached to the ground right now, and you can see that the ball has left his racket. So it's really important that, yes, inertia can take you off your feet, but can you be stable at the moment of contact and then catch that inertia to stop your, side momentum to recover and come back into the court? So that's really critical that both feet are on the ground at contact. You can see the ball has left his racket just now, and now his foot's going to swing out after contact.
Yeah, I think the other thing I like here too is that I don't think he's peaking, right? P-E-E-K. I don't think
he's doing great.
Yeah, I mean, his eyes are really, and his head's locked there at the point of contact. And what I love about this is that he doesn't need visual confirmation of what he's done with the ball.
No.
You can feel it. I mean, right at contact, you can feel exactly what's the height over the top of the net, what's the direction, what's the depth. And it's just such a confident feeling.
There's only one reason that you have to look. The ball might come back. Otherwise, there's no reason that you have to actually look to see where your ball went.
That's right.
That's
right. Okay. And then finally, forward swing pass out to a full straight arm finish. Stowe, speaking of Tom, he loved this kind of finish where the racket face actually stayed open.
Right.
You didn't have to really flip it around. And I remember once talking to King about his backhand, and he said that if you got into this, if you got in the Eastern backhand grip, that you could feel how the knuckles would really be kind of the focal point. Like the right hand knuckles would be the focal point in terms of if you did nothing more than just finish with your knuckles here.
Right.
Rather than flipping the racket head over, thinking that you need that for for top. And he just thought, all I'm trying to do, Brent, is I'm just trying to paint lines up the back of the ball with those knuckles. And as Bill May said in his Hall of Fame acceptance speech, which was one of the great speeches of all time. He did his James Taylor shtick, by the way, which was always good. But he was talking about having to practice against King. He said that Kinger's backhand return to serve was so good that's all he did. He just kind of knuckled the ball. And I don't mean the ball wasn't spinning.
Right.
But he said playing against Kinger, because he could just drop it down at your feet all day long with a drive. He said, Bill said, that's one of the reasons I developed a decent half volley.
Right. You spend the whole afternoon digging in the sandbox.
That's right.
Digging in the dirt, getting grass stains on your knees.
That's right. That's right. Guys, we'll get to the comments in just a second here. I want to get through to the what I think.
Well, you know who else was knuckles up a lot of the time was Tommy Haas, the great Tommy Haas.
That's true.
Whereas if you look at Wawrinka, one of the greatest backhands of all time, he hits and the racket rolls out, right?
Yep.
But Tommy Haas was definitely more often than not a knuckles up guy.
That's right.
And again, one of the greatest backhands in the game of tennis ever.
Perfect. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. One of my favorite players, actually. Yeah.
Here's a practice sequence. Jeff, you love getting in the mirror and taking a look at what it looks like. And you can do this in two ways, where you're facing the mirror, and then you can also get sideways to the mirror. But you want to kind of look at these three things that we talked about, which is the prep, which is staying sideways at contact, and then the straight arm finish at the finish, at the finish position. Do a lot of this. If you were to do a lot of this, get in front of the mirror on a daily basis for 5 minutes, and then just rehearse. I mean, take a look at what those three kind of points of the swing look like, and then rehearse this swing off the court. And then when you go onto the court, start off with some underhand feeds from somebody. Obviously, put them over on the single sideline where you're going to be able to hit cross court. But it's a one bounce underhand feed. And the reason you want that is because if it's a racket feed, even if it's from just on the other side of the net, too often what happens is the ball's coming in just fast enough to where our brain gets consumed with, it's just timing. We're just wondering, when's this ball going to arrive, which really clouds and fogs up your ability to be able to really think and feel about each one of those three elements that we just talked about with this topspin drive. So underhand feeds, one bounce, make it slow. And then once you feel comfortable with that, you can have someone go over there and racket feed balls, but they've got to be slow, right? Because you have to develop the feeling of each one of these three things.
Right.
And then the other thing I would tell you to do is to video. Get your phone out or get a camera, whatever it is, and video from the side, right, which would be off the side fence, looking along the baseline at you, and then from behind. And if you want me to take a look at it, you can send me your video. The best way to get that started is just shoot me an email, brent@webtennis.com, and I'll tell you, how we can make this work in terms of me giving you some analysis, some details on your one-handed topspin backhand. Let's take it.
I think the other part about the mirror stuff is like sometimes what I tell my students sometimes when I've done that, I stand in front of the sliding glass door at the club or something, because you get the reflection. It's like a mirror. And I would first put yourself in a ready position, facing yourself in the mirror, but I tell them to close their eyes because I want them to do it as if they're out on the court. And so then I tell them to open their eyes, and I want them to see what they think, what they're feeling is a ready position. And then in that moment, when they close their eyes, they're just going to do what they do. And so part of it is they look in the mirror, and then I say, make it aesthetically pleasing. So sometimes they'll be in front of the mirror and they're kind of hunched. They might be curled up to one, because they're used to thinking that they're supposed to be hunched over and in this ready position, like a you know, like a fullback getting ready to run through the line. And it's like, wait a second, no. Like if we went back and watched Doug hit some balls here, when he makes his split check before the other guy makes contact, his hips are down, his knees are bent, all that, but his upper body is up. He's not bent over, right? And so tennis is not a game that's played bent over. It's actually played on top of your feet, standing up, right? So sometimes the mirror can be really helpful in getting people to understand, like, oh, wait a second, yeah, this is like, yeah, I should be standing up. Make it look good. What?
Yeah, no, well, that's
make it look good.
Hey, I remember once being on the court with Phil Landau, our boy from Florida right now, in Naples, and we were taking a little break, and we were talking about something, some kind of technique, and he said that he once worked with a guy, I think it was in Oklahoma, and in this great Southern accent, the guy would just tell Phil, just make it party, just make it look real party.
Yeah,
I loved it. I thought that was
good. There's some truth to that. I mean, you know, and that's why the mirror stuff for me is an important kind of sequence. It's like, look, make it look good. You know?
So Mike TT is, I think I lost to an old guy, Len Saputo, at the California Open qualifying back around 82, trying to get the next round to play Doug King. So, yeah, Len Saputo was probably older, Mike, than you were at that time. But Len Saputo, a former #1 ITF world ranked player.
Like when he was in 45s, right? Or something like that? Or
something like that.
Or was it earlier? 40s,
45s? I would say not a bad loss.
Yeah, not a bad loss.
He was unbelievable. I mean, he was a little tiny guy, lefty, not really any power, but one of those guys who could just super smart, would just keep putting balls in places where you just didn't have any kind of tactical advantage. And so not a bad loss. And then Mark is saying, you do see the pro one-handers these days extending the left arm back to counterbalance. Don't see that here. Yeah, no, there's no question that a lot of the pros do that. And it's something that I coach, I teach, but Doug Dittmer, for whatever reason, doesn't need to do it. He's already got perfect balance. And, tried doing this with a Gamma Big Bubba 137 and not strung super tight. And the technique better be perfect.
Yeah.
And so if Mark, you're saying that he needs to do it to make his backhand better, well, I disagree. But you are right in saying that a lot of the pros do that. Let's see what Mike TT says here again. I've been trying to get to a more compact backswing with limited success. With Nationals beginning today, that would be in the 65s in San Diego. I've gone to my natural full Guga backswing.
Yeah, there's a guy knuckles up. Yeah.
And simply try to strengthen the grip a bit. That's good. Well, make sure that, if you've got the right grip, and the word strengthen, I think Mike is referring to just more of a full Eastern backhand grip as opposed to squeezing tight. If you've got the right hand position on the handle, you can relax it. You don't have to be strong. It just biomechanically, it's going to work to where you don't need to. You don't need to just be strong in the grip, and if you don't, you just get a really nice fluid swing speed going out through that.
Yeah, I would say this too. The idea of creating a more compact backswing. Has way more to do with hips and core than it does with your actual swing. If your natural swing, backhand swing, forehand too, for that matter, is more arm related than body related, then you're going to have trouble putting those two things together. If you want to see compact swing in and out, look at Agassi on return to serve. Probably one of the best compact, and he's all core and hip, coiling and uncoiling, and his racket is right on point, right? So That's
So
something
look,
to something
I
to
mean,
consider.
as Doug comes out of his ready position, and again, his ready position is exactly what Stowe taught. He liked the racket head in front of the left shoulder if you're right-handed. He
Yeah.
thought if you pointed the racket forward on its edge, right there in the middle, is that it puts your wrist in the wrong position.
You've activated your wrist. Yeah, hinge
Yeah.
point.
And
Yeah.
so when he gets ready, when he preps this, all he does is he kind of keeps a ready position, but just turns the shoulders.
Yeah.
Nothing's really gone back. He's just
Nothing. Yeah, he hasn't done anything with his hands yet or arms
no.
yet. He's just done
He's
it.
probably going over to get the grip, and now he's got the grip. And look, you, you know, maybe Guga had more flair on this thing, and I know Stan got more flair on the prep. But if you want to make it repeatable, I would say that's about as far back as you. And look, this elbow really just stays bent until he straightens forward, and he straightens forward through the ball. So I think there's too often, Jeff, we see that on this thing where the guy will straighten his arm back. And
yeah, right here, right.
Yeah.
In this moment, yeah, straighten
and
arm.
and the elbow's bent, and all he's waiting to do is to extend straight arm.
Yeah.
That's when it's straight, is right in here. Okay. Well, guys, look, hope this has been helpful today. If so, please click the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click that notification bell as well, so you're always notified every time I go live, as if this like this morning with Jeff, and or upload new videos for you. Guys, if you've not yet signed up for my free training 20-minute course on the between points routine, which is at roughly 80% of the match, not playing points. If you manage that 80% of the time really well, you tend to consistently play the points, the 20% of the match, up towards your top skill level, whatever that is right now, on a much more consistent base, which means that you actually have a much more narrow skill level range, which is what we want. If you've not yet signed up, just going over to WebTennis.com, drop in a first name and email address, and you'll be all set. You can get instant access to that 20-minute video. It is private. All right, guys, that's it for me today. We got to get out there, Jeff. We got to help someone else have a great day.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
I'm headed down to the East Bay. Going to be on the court with Erica and Barry Beaumont today. So.
Oh, lucky for them. Lucky for them. They are
Lucky
playing doubles together at the Pacific Coast coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming up. Yours truly running the player experience.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be different. It's going to be different.
I can't wait.
Yes. Guys, thanks for hanging out. See you guys again next time.